I'm Mandi Feely-Swain, and welcome to another edition of Origination Boost Podcast. So tell us how you got started in mortgage.
Well, fun story. So between junior college and senior college, my husband and I, he was my boyfriend at the time, we decided to get married. Little did we think ahead and real, young and dumb, that we would then need health insurance because I would no longer be on my parents' policy. So I was working at a bank and they said, you need health insurance. If you will stay, we will pay for you to finish senior college. Well, that was a great option for me. So I stayed and worked there about 12 months. I was the drive-through teller, loved it. It was like fun and exciting and busy and just great. And the mortgage lender went out to have a child and they said, "You're going to go do mortgages." And I'm like, fantastic. I would have been 20 years old. Went over doing mortgages. About 3 weeks in, the bank president comes over and says, "Belinda," and throws my business card across the desk at me and says, "What's wrong with this business card?" I'm like, "I don't know. You said I could be a mortgage loan originator." He said, "Belinda, mortgage has a T in it. Mortgage has a T." Well, didn't know. So literally when I say I could not spell it, I could not spell it. So from there, I learned that mortgage has a T, and I learned to work really hard, and that is how I got into mortgages.
You tripped into it, huh?
I just fell into it, literally didn't have a clue. My husband and I lived in a single wide trailer. We didn't even own a house. So I had no idea what, other than I knew it was a loan against a house. I knew that much.
So how long have you been in the business?
I started in 1993. So
Very
this
good.
would be 32 years now.
Yes, ma'am. That is amazing. Amazing. So you started as a loan officer. You didn't start in the operations side. That's where you started in the banking industry, and your career evolved over time. And where do you work today? Or is it an IMB or is it a bank or?
Yeah, we're actually part of a bank and I serve as a regional manager. I have 51 direct reports. Of that, 25 are loan officers. So we're a complete region. We process, we underwrite, everything's done within my region. I still originate. I never want to give up my origination business. Coming through the 2008 crash, I ran the most profitable branch in my company, but I had no value as a branch manager, but as a loan officer, I had options. So I never, ever want to give up origination because, it's always what I can bring to the table.
Well, I love that you're a frontline leader. That's what I call it, leading from the front. And if you can do it, you can teach others to do it, and you can, what's happening on the front line. And I just very much respect that about you. And I very much align with you. Even as the EVP of Premier Mortgage, I still have my mortgage license, and I'm still doing pipeline reviews. On Thursdays. So you and I are kindred spirits, friend. Okay,
I love it. I love it.
So where was there a defining moment early on in your career that made you realize that you could succeed in this business and that you wanted to excel in this business?
I love the fact that I wasn't limited on income. I love the fact that I was able to help people. I loved the fact that every loan was different. Every loan was a challenge. It was never repetitious, right? It was never, I'm ADHD in case you can't tell. So I love a good challenge. I love when I have to think through things. I love solving problems. I'm a puzzle solver. So I love putting mortgages together and making them work. My reputation is if it can be done, I can do it. So I do a lot of rescue loans, simply figuring out how to make it fit within the box. What is it that they didn't see? What is it that they overlooked? What question did they not ask that pulls this together?
Ask the questions, right? Take a full loan application.
Yes. So many times you have people that just want to do, the bare minimum. Well, I'll give you an example. We have a recent file where the person is only been self-employed for a year. Prior to that, they owned a business. Well, they owned a percentage of the business. Let me put that together. How the other mortgage lender turned them down. Well, as we're talking to them, it was his dad's business. His dad passed away, so he had to do the new business in his name to clear everything out. And it made sense. It
Yeah.
was the same business that's been in business for what, 100 years
Years.
now. It's just now in his name. So it was pulling it together. It was getting the complete story, listening to the borrower to know, how does this make sense? Tell me how this is happening. What steps were put in place to get to this point, and how does that fit into the mortgage side, right? How do I make this make sense to my underwriter?
Absolutely. Build the story, right?
Exactly. Tell
And
the
then
story.
find the documentation to support said story.
Pulling obituaries off the internet. You'd be surprised the things we do, right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Oh my gosh. Yes. So your first year, you're new, and what was that like? Because I know for me, I started very much on the support side of things, but it was kind of when I changed over to being a loan officer, it was definitely night and day. And for you being 20 years old, so young, that first year, I don't know if the people came straight in the door to see you or if you had to go generate business, but what was that like for you? If somebody's getting in the business now and they want to really have a career like you do, what would you say?
Well, first and foremost, I had a pager, and I would give that pager number out all the time, hoping people would call or text, or I guess it would be text, would call or page me so that I could call and help them with their mortgage. We actually, I got really lucky. Even in 93, I had a laptop, so I had the ability to work remotely, which was, really great. But what that meant was I worked on nights and weekends. And if you think about it, most of your transactions are done nights and weekends, right? So even though I worked for a bank and I still was at the bank from 8 to 5 every day, because I would answer that pager after hours, and because I would do applications after hours, that's how I built my business. Was the availability. Was not, if you're going to work 8 to 5 and try to be a loan officer, you're never going to be uber successful. You may be successful because it may work out that you work for a great bank that has, a great walk-in business, but you're never going to reach that level of being uber successful unless you're accessible to when the agents and the borrowers need you. And again, most borrowers write contracts nights and weekends because they're working their job during the day. And if they're not working, I always tell borrowers,
hope they're working their job during the day.
That's what I always tell them. They're like, we're so sorry we had to work today. I'm like, no, if you don't work that job, I can't do your mortgage. You call me after hours, no problem. So I think it's about, with that, it's accessibility and it's understanding it's a trade-off that, you're going to have a great and wonderful opportunity to have a great and wonderful life. But at the same time, there's going to be times that, your life is not your own. It's the jobs. Yes. And so finding balance, it always kills me when these people are like, oh, we work 30 hours a week and we make $4 million a year. That's never been my life. Yeah. I've always been the one working 60 hours a week to hit that levels that I want to hit.
Yes. You're chasing your best self, right?
Oh, always. Sometimes I wonder, have I let myself and just didn't realize it?
I let myself and just wonder. Okay. So who were your mentors in your career? I mean, I think any top 1% originator, any really outstanding human beings that have been in this business for a long time had great mentors along the way that helped build them up to be where they are today.
So I have two people that when I look back over my career really helped to not only define my career, but to define me and who I wanted to be, and didn't even know it was who I wanted to be. It was just who was there. When I was switching into mortgages at 19, 20 years old, there was a lady that came over to me when I was at the drive-through and said, "You've got to dress better." And she said, "My sister just finished rush at Ole Miss, so they can't repeat those clothes. I'm going to bring you those clothes." And she brought those clothes to me and said, "You wear these clothes every day." And every single day I would wear those dresses. And number one, I would feel fabulous. But number two, I looked professional. So you have those people that invest in you, not necessarily from the career wise, but personally. Yeah. She didn't have to give me those clothes. Yeah. She didn't have to take that extra moment to say, "Hey, you need to dress better if you want to be successful. You need to level up just a little bit and I'm going to help you." So she's someone that even now I still stay in contact with because she invested in me personally, if that
With
makes sense.
nothing in return. She just
Right.
really wanted
With
to see
nothing
you
in
be
return.
better.
She did it because she knew that if I wanted to be a mortgage loan officer, I had to look that part. And she was that person that helped me become that part. Then I had a manager that helped me learn more about the business itself, about doing the right thing, making sure that your customer is always put first, and eating the frog. And that sometimes that's a hard lesson. One of the first loans that I had with him after I switched over to that company was a loan where they decided they wanted to waive escrows. Well, we waived the escrows. We put the extra quarter charge on there. The borrower got really mad because she didn't know there was a quarter charge on there. And that she called and complained to him. He made me go meet her for lunch and apologize in person and write her a check, from which I probably shouldn't have even had done, but I didn't know I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
Pay him back that escrow refund. And let me tell you, from there I learned, if you make a change on anything, you better make sure that borrower knows it.
Yes, ma'am.
You
That's such a great lesson. And that person taught you integrity, right? They taught
Yes.
you to be diligent and be forthright with customers. And I think that's what I hear you saying when you say that person in your life that mentored you, then they make you do hard things outside your comfort zone too. Because I think having lunch with that gal and having to write that check was probably not comfortable.
It would have been a whole lot easier to drop it in the mail, let me tell you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
100%, those would be the two. The one that personally invested in me, and then the one that professionally invested. Those are the two that stick out the most.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that story. And I think it was Mary Kay that said something to the extent of, you don't need $1 million suit. You just need a suit that makes you feel like $1 million. And it sounds like the clothes you got from your friend from that was sorority and Old Miss and all the things, made you feel like $1 million, even if they didn't cost that. So that's great advice for all people in any industry, right? Confidence helps you progress, I think.
100%.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so let's talk about challenges you faced. Whether, there are a few different things I can think of. One, the real estate recession, right? You've been in the business long enough to know that. The pandemic was one. The taper tantrum of 22 was another one. Or maybe you've had personal or professional obstacles you had to overcome to stay the path in this career for so long and be successful that whole time.
Yeah. So we all have things that we have to overcome. I mean, no one has a perfect life. Obviously, 2008 was that moment that you're like, dear Jesus, if you please let me make money again, I will be much wiser and I won't blow my money.
Yeah.
So that was 2008. I mean, it was that moment in time that you're like, I never thought my career could go away. I never thought that someone might be able just to go to the post office and get a mortgage. And here we are wondering, are we going to be so controlled by the government that it's going to be a government job at some point? So there was a lot from 2008 that we learned. From the pandemic, I always thought I needed to be at my office every single day. So my husband has leukemia, and in March of that year, he went in and the doctor said, y'all need to be at home. And my husband called me and he said, we need to be at home. And I said, like, for how long? He said, until they tell us we can go back. And I thought, oh my God, our life is over. I can't work from home, because literally up until that point, if you'd said, hey, I'm going to work from home today, you know what it meant. You were taking most of the day off, right?
Yeah.
So here I am going, I'm going to work from home. My whole team's going to work from home every day. We're never going to be able to get everything done, right?
Right.
Well, what we learned to work from home, number one, but number two, we were super productive. I tell everybody, I love to work from home because nobody here likes me. If I go to the office, everybody likes me and takes all my time. So when I work from home, I'm super productive. So we learned to be super productive from that. As I mentioned, my husband has leukemia. He's been through 3 rounds of cancer and currently has leukemia. So we constantly have health issues going on. I think that's just part of it. I have 2 children, so I've raised 2 boys. I have my youngest son plays D1 baseball, so I have that baseball player and try to make it to as many games as we can. So there's constant distractions and obstacles, if that's the right thing. But I believe in every single industry, there's going to be obstacles and distractions for everybody. So I never want to say, oh my God, I've had such a hard life. I've had a very blessed life. Have there been things to overcome? Absolutely. But everybody has that. So I don't think that that should ever be used as an excuse or a crutch or a reason. Everyone is still out there producing. Everyone is still out there doing the things they need to do. So here I need to do it too.
Yes, ma'am. Well, and I think that what your point to that is, you adapted, right? COVID made us adapt, right? And then it made us appreciate the things that we didn't have anymore, right? And then it made us change our business model, and it gave us some freedoms, but those freedoms, you ended up having to have more discipline. Because you had these freedoms, I felt like, and that's what I hear you saying. And then also, I applaud you, because when you have things in your personal life, like your husband having leukemia, many times I've seen originators just stop working, and it sounds like for you, you've found a balance where you can be there for your son's baseball games and for your husband during his battle with leukemia to fight the big nasty C word. I have my own spin on that, but and still manage a huge organization, 27 loan officers, 51 people in your organization, and still rise and still do your own production. So I applaud you for that. And you just must have to, I think you just had to dig deeper, right? When all of those things happened,
I
right?
do. I think it's a matter of, either it's going to conquer you or you conquer it. So here we are. We're going to figure out how to conquer it.
Yes. Yes. And I love that you have a great partner at home, and it sounds like you have a great husband. So that's a big deal.
We keep him around.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like since 20, when you were in a mobile home, right?
Well, that would have been 1992. Yeah, 1992, 1993. That's been a very long time ago. So
yes, ma'am.
we don't want to go back.
Okay, so daily habits. So what does a typical week look like for you? Or, some of your daily habits that help you succeed.
The first thing I would tell you is that on Sunday, I plan the whole week out. I look to see, my one of my LOAs is always like, how bad is your calendar? Your calendar scares me, but I look to see, what is it that I need to do? Which I have multiple offices, and I try to visit each office each week. So what days will I be in this county? What day will I be in this county? So by planning ahead, I plan each Sunday. I go through each Sunday. I do a call with my team leads for us to plan out our week. It's really hard during the week for them to get my direct attention, if that makes sense. So on Sunday, it's really easy for us to say, hey, let's set a 45-minute call up. Let's go through, what questions do you need of me? What do you need? My kids used to say, Mom, I need you to look me in the eyes. Yeah, I need you to look me in the eyes. So that's our eyes time. What is here? This is your undivided attention. And whether we're planning a Christmas party, we've already got our Christmas party planned, that kind of stuff. We've got that far planned out. And that's because we do that on Sunday. Each night before I go to bed, I look at my calendar for the next day. And so, on each night, I'm looking through my calendar to see, what is it that I have tomorrow? What are my priorities? Sometimes my LOA is saying, hey, can you find room to call this customer tomorrow? And I'm saying, hey, let's move this around a little bit so that we can open up that window so that I can make that phone call tomorrow. So I think planning ahead, you either plan ahead or you plan to fail. You fail to plan, whatever that little saying is. I definitely think that is something that's important. I do a window that probably the one thing that I think has helped me the most in being able to do, be a regional manager and producing, to do the things, is I have a window. Because if they tell me that, hey, we need you to call this customer, I'm going to say, let them know I'm going to call them between 3 and 3:30, because at 3:01, I don't want my phone ringing if I'm in the middle of another phone call. So I
Right.
always tell them, make sure the borrower knows it's a window. So when they call, they say, hey, she's going to call you tomorrow between 3 and 3:30. So watch for her call between 3 and 3:30. She will call you. And it allows me to have the flexibility that if I'm on one phone call that's running over, my phone's not ringing right in there behind me.
Right. And you're setting the
So,
right expectation, it sounds like, with the client.
well, and it's great because if I have a problem with a loan officer on a file and the underwriter calls me at 2:59, I'm not declining that call because I know I've got a 3:00. So I love working off of windows. I live and die by my calendar. I live and die by Outlook. Ooh, I can tell you, if Outlook goes down, I'm done.
You're out of business.
I'm out of business. So I do a lot. I live and die with a calendar. I think that that's super important, is to have a calendar. My LOA has access to my calendar. She can book for me. I think that's super important because I can't do everything. I have to have help. So that LOA is very, very important to be able to help see that calendar, help add to that calendar. And she's a great resource for me to help me with borrowers. But also, if there's something that borrower asks that she can't answer, she can immediately say, you know what? I don't know that answer. I need to get you on a call with Belinda. She has availability tomorrow between 2:30 and 3. Would that work in your calendar?
Right.
And they can immediately add. That way the customer's not upset. She's not having to say, let me find out and call you back. Belinda's going to call you herself 2:30 to 3 tomorrow. She will know this answer. And
that's amazing.
It
business mix. So talk to me about your business mix through the years, and how did you build that particular business mix?
My business is always going to be real estate agents and builders. So from the business mix, it's always going to be that. I do, because I'm older, I do have those repeat customers now. So I do have the repeat business from existing customers. But the majority of my business is always going to be builder and real estate agent. And
so
the
somebody listens to our podcast together, or somebody reads the book. What advice would you give somebody that's just trying to break into a new realtor relationship? Or, how did you cultivate those relationships over time?
I would tell you to find people that you enjoy working with, find people that are similar to you in taste. My best real estate agents are the agents that we've come in together. When we may have met, our kids were babies and now they're in college. So we had similarities. We had similar interest. It's always easier to work with people that you like. So find people that you like, find people that you know are going to share similar interests as you, find people that you feel like you can relate to. And I feel like that is something that is going to help you build those long-term relationships. I would tell you to always remember your book of business needs to be in with agents and builders or financial planners, people that constantly have access to customers. When we go through a refinance boom, if you get caught up too worried about refinances that you forget about your real estate agents, they're not going to remember you when that refinance boom goes away.
Great advice. Great advice. I love that so much. When you do your business plan for the year, are you looking to add new agents to that mix, or you feel like you're pretty solidified and your business is just nurturing the current agents you work with? What's your secret sauce, really, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. So I try to always add a few, simply because I'm at that point. Some of my agents are starting to retire. Some of my agents are starting to slow down. So I'm always looking to add, that maybe 2 to 3 additional real estate agents. So I think you've constantly got to be adding agents. Even if you are in the perfect spot in life, what if one of your agents gets sick? What if they pass away? I mean, so many things can happen that you've got to always have that roster that you can pull from.
Absolutely. Great advice. So if somebody's trying to build future business, what's your MO? You need to meet 2 or 3 per year. Are you meeting them by introductions from other agents? When you close a transaction, are you asking business from the listing agent? I mean, all of us have kind of our way we do it. What's your way of really
So
cultivating?
every contract you get in, you should be contacting the buyer's agent and the listing agent and introducing yourself and trying to build a relationship. There are so many years ago, we didn't have that intel that we could go in there and see, hey, this person does a lot of business, or hey, this person maybe only does it part-time. There are systems now that you can go in there and utilize to see what their business looks like and see if it's a fit for your model. I would reach out to every one of them regardless. But when you're doing your research on that agent, and I research every agent that I do a transaction with, I want to be able to call and say, I noticed that you do a lot of FHA business. I've done a ton of FHA loans, would love to be a resource for you. You may have a lender that you work with already. I would love to be a backup if you ever need one. So it may be that simple, soft entrance where you're saying, let me be a backup option for you. Because let me tell you, the first time they need their loan officer and they don't answer on a Sunday, guess what? They're calling me, and guess who's answering the phone?
Yeah.
That would be me. So do that, do your research, know what you can bring. And I always sell what I have. I never sell against another company. I never want to be that lender that says, oh, well, this or that. No, let me tell you what I can do. Let me tell you, because I know what I can do. So here's how I can bring value to you. If you call me, I can answer. If you have a question, reach out to me. Even if I'm not involved in your transaction, use me as a resource. I've done this for 32 years. I know the rules and regulations.
Yes, I love that advice. I use that, I think if you pay it forward in that way where you answer a question and you're not being compensated because you're not closing the transaction, but you provide value, the next time there's an opportunity, they will think of you and they will say, Belinda or Mandi, they were so great to answer my questions and they asked nothing in return. I think that that's a great way to build trust and value to the partners you really want to align with, right?
Absolutely. And they also tell their friends.
Yes.
They
Oh, good
also tell their
advice.
friends.
Yes. Ask your agent partners that you do like if they have friends that would be good partners, right? I think that that's
100%.
great advice. Um, so just maintaining those relationships, you talked about, don't get caught up in a refi boom and lose that connection you have with your agents and your builders. How I call it dating. How are you dating your realtor sphere and your builder sphere to keep them in love with you versus getting wooed away by another loan officer?
Right. There's always something new and shiny, right? So you definitely need to stay in touch. First and foremost, any transactions you have, they need to be perfect. I mean, make sure everything's going great. Make sure they're updated. Make sure it closes on time. Make sure everything's happy because they're giving you their reputation when they refer a borrower to you. It needs to come back to them untarnished. So make sure everything does what it's supposed to do and closes well. I think it's important that you're reaching out, you're talking to them, and you're asking them, what can I do to help you? It's not about me calling and saying, hey, do you have a customer for me today? It's me saying, hey, I noticed you have an open house this weekend. Could I do some flyers? I noticed you have an open house this weekend. Do you care if I come and hang out with you? I noticed you have an open house this weekend. Would you like me to bring some waters? It looks like it's going to be 95 degrees. So always try to be that true partner that you are not just, taking. If there's a new product out there that, especially right now where houses are setting, if there's a new product out there that may help sell that house a little bit faster, let them know about it. Get some marketing materials over there with it.
I love that. I love that so much. So one crazy question is I'll get to that in a minute, but what one marketing strategy or tool do you swear by? Like you have to do this in your business. You've done it 32 years. I'm at 30 years. And granted, what I did 30 years ago and what I do today is very different, but there are some tactics or strategies that are just must-dos.
So there's a lot that we do as far as marketing. I love love CE classes. We've done tons of lunch and learns, and knowledge is great. But if you do a lunch and learn, you'll get 12 agents. If you do a CE class, you may get 40 because they love the CE credits, right? So I feel like knowledge is important. So if I can help share knowledge with them, I think that that is a really great way to, number one, provide value and education to them, but also that is a great way to market as well.
Well, and I think, can you just kind of address the follow-up to that? Because I think a lot of loan officers will maybe go teach that class and think they're going to get loans out of it, but that's not really the magic, right?
I think you need 8 touches. I think once you do that, if it's a new agent that's in that class and you've never done a deal with them, we're going to do the class. We're going to call and thank them for coming. We're going to invite them to lunch. We are going to invite them to a coffee. We're going to put them in for our next CE class so they know about the next one. So it's about those touches. If I see they have an open house, wow, I may just be dropping by, right? I was in the area. So I would definitely say, they say the fortune is in the follow-up. So make sure you're following them. It is not as easy as saying, hey, you came to my CE class. When am I going to get a deal? No. Again, remember, they're giving you their reputation. They're not going to give their reputation to someone they just met. They need to know you. They need to understand how you operate a little bit, and they need to like you.
Yes. Fantastic advice. That's so good. So good. So how about social media or tech platforms? They seem to be growing in the business. Do you think it's a must-have for you, or do you think it's just an extra for you?
I think it's a must-have. I love social media. I love being able to share information on social media. I love being able to find people on social media and follow them and, see what they're doing. I love to see when people are doing something that works and they're sharing that. I mean, again, there's enough business out there for everyone. I'm all about sharing information. I'm very competitive, don't get me wrong, but I also know that it does not take anything away from me if someone uses one of my ideas to get an extra deal for them. I mean, they're not taking away my business. Right. So
yeah, I've always looked at it that way too. Like I can give you I could share my whole playbook with you, and you and I would have very different spins on the playbook, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I love being able to share information. I loved being able to watch information and maybe get new eyes. I'm an idea person. My marketing person gets so mad at me because on our Sunday afternoon call for 45 minutes, I'll have 75 new ideas. She's like, my God, do you sleep? And I'm like, no, I was thinking of a new idea. So, I love being able to use social media. I think it's a great way to connect with people, maybe past customers. And, especially when it's so hard I mean, again, if you don't do it every day, I mean, I think about this and they're like, who was your OBGYN when you had your kids? I don't remember. Same thing with mortgage lending. If they haven't done a mortgage in 5 years, unless you've done something to stay top of mind, they're not going to remember who you are, right? So social media is a great way for borrowers to see me, to remember I'm still doing mortgages. I'm not retired yet. So I love social media.
So that takes me to just how do you nurture your database?
So we do touches, obviously, depending on where they are in our database. Are they past customers? Are they potential refinance opportunities? Were they TBDs that just never bought? They have different touches. So we're doing different touches. We're getting ready to do a customer event in July, which is going to be really hot given what today is. So we're calling those borrowers and we're inviting them to our cookout. Hey, come over.
Great reason to talk when, they have a 2.5 rate, right?
Right. Well, and it's the thing, this is just to say, hey, we're appreciative that you did your mortgage with us.
Yeah.
We know we're not calling to talk about refinancing because, again, if you're at a 2.25% interest rate, there is no way I tell people all the time, if you've got a 2.25% interest rate, you may not like the house. You may not like the neighborhood. You may not like the person you're living in the house with, but you'd probably stay in.
The damn principle, right? It's just going to have to be painful enough and build up enough that then they're going to give that up because they didn't like something else less than that rate,
Yeah. I mean, so this is just a way to stay in touch with those borrowers. And here's the thing, here's what I find with those events. It's not necessarily about what they need. You may get lucky and maybe they're getting ready to buy a second home. Maybe they're buying a home for their child that's going to college, but it's about who they know that's getting ready to buy. So that's where they're like, oh, you know what? Belinda, I just went to a cookout with her. You need to call her.
Yeah. Top of mind, right? You're top of mind. So I have a couple more questions before I let you go. To that point, how do you stay consistent on that marketing, right? I know you do, because you wouldn't have had the longevity in your career, but I think it's a good question to ask, because a lot of loan officers, maybe they have these ideas and they sprinkle down, but they're not resulting in business, right? They're throwing it all out there against the wall, in my opinion, and then they're not seeing that effort trickle down. But there's certain things you've done in your career that have allowed you to keep your income level, keep business coming in regardless of the market, and that has to have something to do with consistency and processes. And so, will you just speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. As far as from marketing, I feel like it's really important that I do a monthly event for my agents, whether that's a CE class, whether that's a lunch and learn, some type of touch where I'm touching a larger group. I do weekly, we have a CRM, we do weekly emails out to our agents, what's going on with the market, how are rates this week, etc. To customers, we do every 6 months, past customers. And again, that's just to stay top of mind. That's just to say, if you're at church on Sunday and your person sitting beside you says, oh, I think we're going to go look at houses, immediately I want them to say, hey, you need to talk to Belinda about your mortgage. Yes. So I just feel like that those are really important to be consistent with. As far as processes, I am a creature of habit. I do every single file I have the same exact protocol for. I mean, to the point that if a borrower ever says, I didn't know that, you didn't tell me that, I know exactly the verbiage I used, and they will say, oh yeah, I do remember that now. So I definitely believe that you've got to be almost a creature of habit, like I mentioned, in this business, because even though there's going to be differences with every single file, in order to be super successful and to be able to turn large numbers of loans, you've got to have the same procedures. Because if I don't, something's going to fall through. If I don't do everything exactly the same way, if I don't take that application completely, if I don't do all my disclosures exactly, there's going to be an issue over on the backside. And I always call it dribbling the basketball. I'm dribbling the basketball. I'm dribbling the basketball. When I pass that basketball off, the basketball needs to be inflated and ready to take the shot, or for them to continue dribbling. Otherwise, we're not going to score, right?
Right.
So again, everything we do, I mean, any single file you ask me about that I've originated, step A, B, C, we do consistently the same way.
Fantastic.
I do my pre-qualifications the same way. I do files exactly.
So if you had to start from scratch today, what would you do first as a loan officer?
The very first thing, and I have started from scratch because we moved to Nashville 20 years ago, didn't know a single person up here. We just knew we wanted to have our kids up here. We wanted to have our kids in school up here and in this environment. So the very first thing I would tell you is to get a target of what agents you want to go after. And what is it that you bring to the game? What is it that's different about you that's going to make you stand out? Because again, they're getting 10 calls a day. And if you can't bring something of value that is going to set you apart, you're just another phone call to them.
I love that so much. What about a mid-level LO? So they're doing 3 to 4 transactions and they feel like they're strapped, right? They feel like they have to do all the marketing, all the calls, all the things. So I know that you and I faced that, and you mentioned you have an LOA. So pushing through that and taking on the responsibility of having an LOA, right? Their families depending on you to perform and make it rain. what piece of advice do you have, or maybe a common mistake or what have you that you see in that process?
With that one, they've got to be incredibly organized. In order to get to the next level, you've got to get systems in place. You need to find someone that's producing more than you, and you need to figure out what systems they're using and how you can incorporate. You may not incorporate everything, but if you can take one or two of those that gets you to 7 to 8 per month, 7 to 8, you'll get to 9 to 10. You've also got to invest in yourself. The way I do LOAs, the branch pays their salary, I pay their bonus. Yep. You've got to invest in yourself. If you're not willing to pay their bonus, you're not going to grow.
I love that. I think that's really solid advice. And how do you ROI your time, right? Because your time is valuable, right? You only have so many bullets in a gun to shoot, or so does, however you say that, right? And I feel like really top performing LOs really have an ROI on time and money and investment in their business.
Yes, I would tell you first and foremost that time is my most precious commodity. I mean, I can make more money. There's all this other stuff I can do. I can't create more time. So I have to scale. I have to put the people in place, such as my LOA, such as my marketing person, my director of operations. I have to have these people in place so that my time is spent on the best and highest usage, which is doing mortgages and recruiting and growing my region. So anything that I can offset, I have to be able to delegate. You've got to be able to delegate if you're going to get to that next level. And that was hard for me because I'm a control person. It's my reputation. It's my loan. I want to make sure everything's done and everything's done right. But when you get the right people in place that you trust and that you've trained correctly, they're going to do it exactly the same way every time that you've taught them how, then your business will scale.
Love
Absolutely.
That. So last one, what is your why? Why on your hardest days in this business, because it hands them to you, it's a two-part. What's your why, and how do you do it consistently, time after time after time, after borrowers, you've worked your guts out to get them to where they are, and they leave, you flitter off and do something else, or you had thought you were going to get this real estate partner, or maybe you're in a regional manager position and you thought a loan officer was going to come to work for you and they're committed and they decided to do something different, right? That's painful. What's your why that you continue to be a grinder and have grit and hustle in this business and continue to do it every day?
Well, first and foremost, I will tell you, it's okay to have a 5-minute funeral. If you got that moment that you lose that loan that goes to that preferred lender of that builder after you help them establish their credit and all this stuff, you can have a 5-minute funeral, but you can't let that bad moment turn into a bad day. So you've got to get past that. For my why, for the longest, my why was my family. My husband's a stay-at-home dad, and with his ill health problems, it's always been on me. I've always been the single family income since we moved here in 2003. So that's always been my why. Over the last 5 years, that why has changed. That why has become, I want to help people do what I've done. I want to help other people have a better life. Again, I grew up in rural Mississippi. Statistically should still be there. And I've had a great life. I've had great opportunities. Now I've worked hard for those. Nothing's been given. Everything has been earned. But it's really important to me now that I'm able to share with other people. This is what you can do. This is how you can do it. Okay, this is how we're going to fix what you've done so that you can continue to grow and be able to just be that mentor and be that person that maybe 10 years from now, they look back and say, you changed my life.
You're the one that gave me the clothes from that sorority at Mississippi.
Exactly. I hope that at some point, No, I don't want the glory. I don't want the fame. I just want somebody to have good thoughts of me.
Yes. Amen. Right. You can live a life or you can leave a legacy, and you'd like to leave a legacy that you've built other people up and left an imprint on their careers. Right. What one
Correct.
question maybe that I didn't ask you that you think is important for loan originators to know as I go down this path of writing this book and sharing stories of and I'm honored to share yours. What maybe I didn't ask you that would be important?
I would tell them that you have to have a lot of tenacity. You have to remember that, again, it can be a 5-minute funeral or pity party, but then you have to get past it and move on. Every single day, the first sale you're going to make is to yourself, because there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be someone faster. There's always going to be somebody cheaper. I mean, 30 years ago, we didn't compete against internet lenders, and here we are. So what is it that makes you get up out of bed every morning? You better know that. You better know that, you know what? I'm going to have thick skin. I'm going to get up. I mean, I'm going to tell you, my daddy did his mortgage with somebody else because he thought I was too busy. I mean, so there's always going to be that moment that you're like, but
Yeah.
you have to get past it. You have to have a really short memory on issues like that. And let me tell you, if you do that and you get up every day and you hustle and you bust it and you do the things you're supposed to do, it all pays off.
Amen. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for your time.